Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on Good for the Game TV, where our aim is to help turn your sporting knowledge into profits. Well, I've just come out of a very busy weekend of rugby betting at Sunday night. I made a great start, I must tell you, to the weekend, especially in the Currie Cup on Saturday. Did very, very well. Unfortunately, gave that all back on the Kings match this afternoon. I really thought we'd have a high-scoring game there, the Kings against Ulster. That was a big disappointment for me. Of course, many punters, I think, came short on the Bok game. Very few people would have backed the Springboks to win that game. They started 22-point underdogs. But nonetheless, plenty of action-packed rugby this weekend. But let's have a look ahead to the weekend coming. We've got no rugby championship, but we'll have a quick look at the Currie Cup, have a look at the log, and then I'll share my handicap projections with you for the Currie Cup and for the two Pro 14 games involving the Cheetahs and the Kings. Why do I do handicap projections on a Sunday night? Well, the main reason is I want to be out ahead of the bookies so that I'm not influenced by any other opinions out there. The thinking being that if my handicap is very different to the bookmakers, it potentially sparks a big bet on my side. I say potentially because I've also still got to evaluate it. Obviously, sometimes I get the handicaps horribly wrong. It's pointless climbing into a handicap just because it's different to the bookmakers. So when the bookmakers handicap comes out, I'll give it some thought. And sometimes I will conclude that the bookmaker is in fact right and I will hold back. But there are other times when I get very involved on the early value. And GG Gaming have said that they would be out on Monday afternoon with their handicaps. So certainly for the Currie Cup, that is. So certainly worth having a good early look. Let's share the screen and we'll start off with the Currie Cup, where, believe it or not, I'm going to go to the Wikipedia page. It's actually quite a useful tool, Wikipedia. They always say you shouldn't believe everything you read. But let's just start off with having a look at the round 5 results. We've got the Blue Bulls beating the Pumas by 10. The Pumas scored a try from behind their own line in the last minute. And that was a massive result for people who are on the plus 14.5 Pumas. It was also a huge result for total point punters, as the lines had been set at around 64 points and the Pumas line around 24. So I know Henrik Swart, for example, was losing both bets after the hooter and ended up winning both bets. So it was a massive swing for punters like him. The Golden Lions against Western Province, I unfortunately missed this game. There was lots of money for the Lions before the off. You know, this opened as a choice game. By the time it started, I did notice minus 3.5 Lions, indicating that the bookmakers had laid a lot of bets on the Lions. Well, it was the bookmakers who were smiling at the end of 80 minutes because Western Province absolutely blew them away 65-38. Then we had the Griquas against the Free State Cheetahs. The Griquas were our best bet of the weekend in our Good for the Game newsletter, which goes out every Friday morning. And certainly at halftime, that bet wasn't looking too good. But the Griquas did come right in the second half and blew the Cheetahs away to comfortably beat the 14.5-point handicap recommended. Let's go a little bit up now to have a look at the Currie Cup table as it stands. Remember, this is a shortened Currie Cup this year. We've only got 6 matches. So the Bulls are going to have a couple of weeks off now. They've played 5 games. They topped the table on 17 points. You've got the Lions on 16 after 4. Western Province, well, they've got a 100% record on 15 after 3. And the same can be said for the Sharks, who are also on 15 after 3. Looking at that table, I think it's safe to say we know who our 4 semi-finalists is. The only thing that has to be determined now is which order they're going to finish in and who will get home ground advantage in the semi-finals. Let's then go back down the table. We'll have a quick look at the fixtures this weekend. We've got the Cheetahs up against the Pumas, the Sharks against the Lions, and Western Province against the Griquas. So what I do on a Sunday night, I normally open the rugby thread on the Good for the Game forum. There are times where enthusiastic punters will beat me to it if they've had a good weekend of punting. But let's go and have a look at that now. This is on the Good for the Game website, goodforthegame.co.za. You just click at the top here on Good for the Game forum, and it takes you through. And I've got the thread open here at the moment. And here's what I do every Sunday, just so that I can get my thoughts out there ahead of the bookmakers. So first up, Free State up against the Pumas. This is, of course, a Free State sort of seaside very much with all of the top Free State players involved in the Pro 14. They play against a Pumas side that really has disappointed this year, although they did beat the handicap against the Bulls at Loftus. I must say I found this one a very tough one to cap indeed. And in fact, as I look at it now, I believe I've made an error there. I think I was really looking at making the Pumas minus 5.5, so I will correct that in the forum thread. So I made the Pumas minus 5.5, the Free State plus 5.5. But I did note they're a very tough game to handicap. Going to be interesting to see what the bookmakers come out with. The Sharks at home to the Lions. The Sharks won 3 from 3. They haven't been that impressive in their last 2 victories. The Lions were very disappointing on Saturday against Western Province, and I can only see the Sharks starting favourites here, and I'm making them -4.5. Western Province at home to the Griquas. Province's other home game was an impressive 32-0 win over the Cheetahs in the wet. They beat the Pumas away. They've beaten the Lions away. I might be a little bit conservative here with my -22.5, but that's what I'm going. Province -22.5 is my handicap projection here. Although the more I think about this one, the more I think if it does come out at 22.5, I'll probably be taking some Western Province because Griquas haven't really been that impressive this season. Let's go on then to the Pro 14. I've got the Wikipedia page open there, and we can start off with a look at, I won't look at all the results, but the results involving South African teams. The Cheetahs up against the Glasgow Warriors. There was lots of money for the Warriors in this game. 6.5 points was where it opened in favour of the Warriors. By the time the game kicked off, we were looking at 9.5, 10.5 points. And the Warriors, well, they never failed to deliver. They really did impress me with a 52-22-4 victory, and plenty of punters collecting there. I was over 34.5 Glasgow points. That also came in quite comfortably after a relatively slow start. So a good game for myself and for many other punters there. Sunday saw the Kings Ulster match, and this is the one where I came short. Total points line was 55.5. And I went high on that. I also thought there'd be tries. I went high on 7.5 tries. And I thought the Kings would score some points. I went high on Kings, 20.5 points. Got what appeared to be the early value as the line moved up to 22.5. But yeah, as they always say, it doesn't help to get the value if it doesn't arrive. And unfortunately, no joy for me there. Let's just go then to the logs quickly just to see how the logs are looking. And Conference A, Glasgow Warriors going very strongly there with 3 wins from 3. You have to go quite far down, or right to the bottom, in fact, to find the Cheetahs, who are still looking for their first win. Now, bear in mind, the Cheetahs did make the playoffs last season. It's been a very disappointing start to the season. But I suppose you'd have to say not an unexpected one, because they have lost quite a few key players. Conference B, well, the Southern Kings, they've been nothing but rock bottom since they joined the Pro 14. Doesn't look like there's going to be any difference this year, with probably their one potential win coming when they host the Dragons later on in the season. Let's pop across then to the Good for the Game forum thread, where I'm suggesting Cheetahs plus 7.5 against Ulster. I wasn't impressed with Ulster against the Kings, although they drew clear to win late. I don't rate them in the same sort of category as Glasgow, and I think we could get a handicap around the 7.5 point mark. And then always difficult to handicap the higher games. The Kings started plus 14.5 against Ulster. In fact, I must tell you, money came for the Kings, and in the end, it proved to be off the mark. But the Kings actually started plus 11.5, and I'm suggesting at least plus 25.5 against Glasgow, who really, really were impressive against the Cheetahs. There's, of course, also some meat at 10 Cup Premiership and Top 14 this weekend, but I don't know enough about those just yet to talk about the handicaps. Before we sign off for this week, though, let's have a quick look. I'm just going to pop onto World Sports Betting because they do have Rugby Championship betting out. That is, of course, for next weekend. But if any of you are interested in the early handicaps, you've got South Africa -8.5 at home to Australia. And we can skim down a bit. We've got Argentina plus 15.5 at home to New Zealand. How will New Zealand respond to that loss to the Box? Well, it's going to be very, very interesting to see. But I'm not going to get involved in those handicaps at this stage. I'll rather be sticking to some of the caps on the Currie Cup games. Keep an eye out on the Good for the Game forum. When the handicaps come out, if punters who are on our forum spot value, they post it here. So stay close. You can subscribe to the various threads, and that way you don't miss out on any of the action. Well, another big rugby week ahead. The Meter 10 Cup normally gets going on a Wednesday as well. I haven't got too involved in that, but certainly the boys on our forum, and particularly Hendrik and some of the New Zealand-based guys, have had some good wins in that already. So if you do have free time and you've got the opportunity to look at those games, then I suggest it. Otherwise, join us later in the week. Our flagship rugby show, The Handicap, will be taking place at 9 o'clock on Thursday night. And that will be preceded at 8:30 by GG Gaming Gone Mad episode 6, with Gary Lenton and I'll be talking about sports betting. And of course, he'll be giving some great promotions for punters. We'll also be having a look at the Master Punter leaderboard. There's also golf coming this week. It's the Tour Championship. We'll have a preview for that probably on Tuesday night. And we'll see what else catches the eye as the weekend approaches. Thanks very much for joining us. Perhaps in the future, I'll have a couple of guests on the show to talk about the early handicaps and put the show out live. We'll see how it goes. But have a good week, rest up, and get ready to punt hard on the weekend.